We'll call the meeting to order. Right on time at 4:30 now, just switched over. Do we normally go through and adopt, or do we hear from our guests first?
We usually adopt the
Okay.
agenda and minutes.
Cool.
Approve the minutes, yep.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda or anything we need to discuss?
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, additions, subtractions, whatever it might take? All right, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Agenda adopted, and let's go ahead and approve the minutes from February 11th. Have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion, corrections? Anything that we see there? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Minutes approved, and we'll move right along to Mr. Shane Finneran.
Great.
Floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a couple of years, I think, since I've done this. I know for sure I had a conflict last year. I think Jackie had filled in for me, but there seems to be a few new faces. I've done a number of these over the years, and you mentioned Jim. He was always one that was a very familiar face at the library board meeting, so I want to thank you all for your service to not only Waconia but the broader community as part of the library board. But my name is Shane Finneran, and I am the city administrator here in Waconia, and we'll give you just kind of a few updates of things that are happening in the community, you know, over the next 12 months or so. You know, all of our city updates are generally construction and project type related type things. So, probably the biggest change for us, hopefully everyone remembers, we had an election in the fall. We had a fairly significant turnover on our city council in the election, and so we have a lot of new members. We have a new mayor, who's Tim Litfin. I have a new city council member, Derek Siddons, a relatively not brand new, but he was elected after being appointed in July, Jacob Coleman. So I kind of consider, you know, them to be sort of three new council members, and then our two council members who are kind of midterm. They're in the middle of their first term, so they have 2 years of experience. Jeff Grangs and Nick Gleason. So a relatively young group in terms of council experience, and so getting them up to speed on what we do and who we are and everything happening in the community is a big challenge, but good group nonetheless. Waconia, obviously, does anybody live in Waconia that's on the board? Very busy place, right? A lot of things going on. Development and construction is something that is kind of a non-stop here in the community. If you've been in Waconia the last 2 years, you know we've been focusing on our downtown core from a street reconstruction perspective. We will again be doing that this summer. It's year 3 of a 4-year construction kind of in the core downtown. That's my visual aid as our project scope of this summer. So we'll be moving down onto First Street, a block of Olive, and then a block of Second going to the east. We are largely doing these construction projects as utility replacement projects. We are dealing with very old infrastructure in these areas. Oftentimes the pipes are 100 years old. And so it's time for them to be replaced. They've served their useful life, and oftentimes we have found wood pipe, old clay pipe, deteriorating clay pipe. So very old infrastructure in that part of the community, which we'll be replacing, and then they won't have to see us for hopefully a couple lifetimes after that. But disruptive nonetheless, but the community's responded and projects have gone fairly well over the last couple summers. So 2 more years of a little bit of pain, and then we'll be out of our core downtown with that. So looking forward to that. We'll open bids on that project next week, and then just as soon as the weather allows, hopefully be underway in late April or early May. We will be doing that in 3 phases to try and kind of minimize the impact, so you'll sort of see the project area sort of jump around, try and keep access to businesses as open as we can kind of throughout that. So the other big project that's happening in the community this summer from a transportation perspective is the reconstruction of the intersection of County Road 10 at the intersection of Waconia Parkway North. So on the northwest corner of the community, so if you travel between here and Highway 7 or Watertown, you would likely travel that intersection. That intersection is going to be reconstructed into what they call a turbo roundabout. And so we received, or the county applied for and received some federal funding related to that project, federal safety funds, and so significant funding from outside source to complete that. What a turbo roundabout does is it allows some of the through traffic through the intersection to not have to interact or conflict with each other. So if you're kind of north or southbound on County Road 10, you'll have sort of a dedicated lane to sort of get through that intersection without having to deal with the traffic that's sort of circling around or making lane changes to get on or off of Waconia Parkway North. So at the time, it was going to be the first turbo roundabout in the state. We did have to push it back a year due to some just federal permitting and environmental stuff. So I'm not sure if we're still going to be the first, but we'll lay claim to it. We'll let somebody challenge us on that. And that'll be a full closure of that intersection during the summer. The goal is to construct that project between Memorial Day and Labor Day, trying to get it in between school end and school start, because that's a pretty busy corridor for our school traffic and school campus over there on the west side of the community. So those are the 2 big infrastructure projects that'll be happening. We do get to do some fun stuff. We are replacing playground at Windmill Creek Park, one of our older playground systems in the community. And so we'll be excited to put some new equipment in there for that neighborhood and kind of get on a cycle. We have 19 playgrounds throughout the community, and each playground has about a 20-year lifespan. It's about how long they last, and we seek to replace them. And so we're starting to get some that we're kind of getting bunched up in age and replacement schedule, and so hopefully this will kind of kick us off on a regular replacement schedule. And so we're not having to do 3 or 4 in one summer. Or try and balance that out in the budget. So that's some fun stuff that's happening. Like I talked about development, again, another busy year in 2024 for the city of Waconia as it relates to development. We had continue to have strong interest in housing in the community. We had 104 single-family homes constructed in the community. We had 22 townhomes constructed in Waconia, and then if you have noticed the big hole at Olive and 2nd here, that will be a redevelopment project that's going to feature 92 apartment units on that block with some street level retail. So continued strong interest in multifamily housing in the community, trying to provide kind of more of a variety of housing styles and price points in the community. Single-family homes here are relatively expensive to the broader market, and so trying to diversify some of our housing stock is important. And some of these multifamily projects, also updating some of our multifamily housing stock in the community has been really critical. We've been able to. That project will be online. The Otto was brought online a year or 2 ago out by McAtoons. The CDA has a Trails Edge apartment over next to Target that was brought online in the last couple of years, and that was some workforce and income controlled housing, and we are working with them to bring some senior multifamily housing to the community as well. So continued strong interest and need for housing of all types in the community. 2025 is going to be, we hope, another continued strong year as it relates to development. but you should see some exciting new commercial projects that'll be happening. Goodwill is coming to Waconia. They are building a site out over by McIntoons. They have a building permit in hand, and we should see them getting started. And next to them, a Tractor Supply retail site will be developed out there as well. So that's all kind of that commercial frontage between McIntoons and Highway 5. So some exciting commercial development there. And then future development, we've been very, very busy talking with developers and landowners over the last 6 to 8 months about future development in Waconia. All of the development that you see happening right now and over the last couple of years, that's all been happening largely within kind of our existing boundaries and within, I'll say, relative ease of connection and accessibility as it relates to utilities. But now all the growth pattern and our future growth is all going to be happening to the east, on the east side of the community, kind of between 5 and 10. And now we're starting to get some of those landowners and developers that are starting to pick off some of those properties. We have a sizable development called Holbrook that is going through final platting on the south side of 10 as you enter the community from Chaska, kind of where that big red barn is on the left-hand side. That'll be 360 some units of variety of housing styles, larger lot single family, smaller lot single family, kind of townhome or small or townhome style, kind of the slab on grade or carriage style HOA maintained type housing. So 2 of the big national builders are partnering on that one, which you don't see very often, Pulte and M&I. So they're kind of each bringing different product to market. And then some smaller things happening kind of north of there, off of Airport Road. We're having discussions with developer, and then we also have a sketch plan in for a smaller development on the south side of the community off of 284, about a 20-something unit kind of single-family development. So still strong interest in Waconia from a developer perspective, and how do we sort of accommodate that in terms of infrastructure, and a lot of discussion happening right now about future water supply and water capacity and all those types of things. And so some fairly large decisions that are going to be in front of the city council here in short order as we look to, providing for the community, for the next 40, 50 years as it relates to some of these large infrastructure items. So that's kind of a quick snapshot. I don't know if there was anything specific that piqued anyone's interest, or if you had a burning question you wanted to hear about prior to the meeting. I'd be more than to try and answer any of those for you.
Do you see any mass transit options as you grow here, and a lot more of your community will maybe living, working off in downtown or Wilmington area?
I don't. I don't think there's any Southwest Transit, which would be the transit provider out here. They haven't indicated that they feel like there's enough demand or enough interest in order to kind of create I'll say a fixed route or regular route operating in Laconia. We've tried some, experimental things in the past. It's been a few years. They have some new leadership there now, and we have talked loosely about it, but I just don't see anything imminently on the horizon as it relates to, I'll say, kind of a commuter route to downtown from Laconia. But I think if Southwest Transit wanted to, again, try and do some, pilot project or kind of try something for a little bit, see what the response was, I'm sure we'd be more than happy to try to accommodate that somewhere in the community.
So from a target demographic, are most of your you think most of the new people coming in are going to be working in the area? More like, remote work kind of a thing?
Yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit of a balance, between the two. We're definitely always going to be an attractive location for anybody that's working in the south West Metro area. So Minnetonka, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, those types of big job centers. We are a net, I'll say, kind of loser from a workforce standpoint. There's more people that leave the community that drive into the community, but it is really close. And obviously, being home of Ridgeview Hospital, Ridgeview is the largest employer by number in the county, and so that's a big economic driver for us. Part of our growth to the east and why that Holbrook development, that residential development, is so critical for us is directly to the east of that residential development is our future business park, or land that we have guided for a future business park. If you wanted to start or build a business, an industrial or heavy commercial type business in Waconia right now, there are no lots available for you to do that. And so that area, which is fairly significant, 200 plus acres, guided for business park type use, is really going to be critical for us from a jobs creation standpoint. And that's why it's so important that we get that residential development done so that we can get utilities through that residential site that can then serve that business park. So we're working every day. We're trying to, how do you get utilities to these places so that those job creators can have an opportunity to grow? Kind of I don't have any stats behind it, but if you were to ask me who are the people that are moving into Waconia, I meet more people. It's probably 1 in every 3 or 1 in every 5 people who are moving here who have maybe retired or soon to be retired, and they're moving to Waconia because their kids live here and their grandkids are here. And so that kind of empty nester, downsized housing style, if I was Mr. Developer, Mr. Builder, that's where I'd put all my money right now, because those things go like that. So it is kind of amazing where people move from, and they say, well, we're moving here because our kids are here, and we want to watch the grandkids' soccer games. So it is quite the dynamic.
I think last time we asked about a Chick-fil-A, if I remember it correctly. But restaurants are always a good talking point. So
Yeah.
anything new coming into Waconia?
Restaurants, nothing no, unfortunately not. One thing that's kind of exciting about the apartment project, like I said, they've got about a little over 4,000 square feet of ground level, street level retail that'll be part of that project. And the corner of Olive and Second is about a 3,500, 3,200 square-ish foot space. And their goal is to bring a restaurant into that specific location. So I know they're working on it. But yeah, we don't have anything. I'm trying to think if there's been anything specifically that I've inquired lately, but not really. But from a commercial lot perspective too, like with Tractor Supply and Goodwill coming online, some of our commercial lot inventory is starting to get gobbled up a little bit too. So we need some more of those commercial nodes to start to pop after some of these residential units go in.
Thanks.
Going, gone. That's the last opportunity till next year. All right. Very good. Well, you guys, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Appreciate the opportunity. And if you have any questions ever at any time, feel free to ring me up at City Hall, and I'd love to chat your ear off about city stuff. So great.
We appreciate it. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you guys. Have a great
Yeah.
night.
All right, as aforementioned, we do not have public to input. So we'll roll right through to 4.3 to Heather.
Hello. Hi, I'm Heather Wiegand, not to be confused with Jim Wigand. Very close. I'm the youth services librarian over at the Chanhassen Library, and I am also the chair for the collection team. So I'm going to be chatting with you about my passion, collection. We had this in the packet, our little rundown of 2024 and our achievements. Some of these overlapped with youth services. Oftentimes, a couple of the teams will have similar goals. And so I know that Tricia Leck talked about some of these last month, so I won't go too far into detail with those. But some of the things that the collection team worked on last year, this was kind of an important one, because sometimes we have these little speed bumps that come up when it comes to ordering things for people. We want to make sure that we can meet the needs of the community, and so oftentimes they will request titles that are not available with the vendor that we normally go through. So that's Brodart, and we typically buy most of our books through Brodart because we also have processing services with them. So they will do our barcodes and our mark records and labels and dust jackets and things like that. But like I was saying, sometimes there's folks that will hear something on WCCO or in Star Tribune. They'll be profiling like a Minnesota chef or a Twin Cities restaurant that have put out a cookbook. And we know the cookbooks circulate really well, and so we want to have cookbooks, and we want to have especially ones with local interest, but oftentimes Brodart, which is a national company, won't have some of these. And so we came up with a process that we would be able to purchase from other vendors, either through Amazon or sometimes directly through some of these smaller publishers. So that was a good way to make sure we get some of this stuff that people are requesting, and because there's so few of those compared to the volume of stuff that we order through Brodart, it's not a problem for us to do the little processing that we need to do, because that was one of the speed bumps before. Brodart does all the processing. So we're able to, with our catalogers, able to make original records, and the processing is done in-house then. So that was cool. Another thing that we were able to do it's one of those things that you don't really think about. This is a way to improve collection maintenance. So books are weeded. Books are weeded because they're not being checked out anymore. They're often weeded because they come back to us and they're falling apart. So one thing that we wanted to do was develop a process that was unified across the county, so when books are weeded or discarded because of condition, there's a way to get that list to the selectors, the people that buy books, so that we could replace things. Normally in the past we could look at discard lists, but you wouldn't be able to tell if that was because there was some kind of a project going on because these books are 20 years old, or if it was something that needed to get replaced because of condition. So we came up with a way that was unified across the branches, so now we can have a timelier way of replacing things. We can close the gaps on things like when the book number 3 in a series is gone, long gone, nobody's checking out 4 or 2, so it affects a lot besides just the missing book. So that was another good thing that we were able to do. Like I said, Trish talked about the holiday book project that we did, where we wanted to broaden the scope and have more secular and non-secular holidays that could be in the holiday collection. We also integrated the juvenile series into the broader juvenile fiction collection to help make things a little easier for people to find. And she also probably talked about the Dulce grant, Libros y Más, which was for juvenile Spanish language materials. So we bought a bunch of new interesting titles for that, which she told you about, but because I'm all about data, I wanted to tell you that there was a measurable impact from that grant in getting those new high-interest Spanish language books. There was a 40% increase at the Chaska branch for checking out the Spanish language, which is huge because that's home to La Academia, which is the Spanish immersion school in Carver County. So again, measurable data here, that's what we're all about.
And Chaska has
Yeah.
our largest Hispanic population
Correct.
in the county.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
not all of our Spanish speakers go to La Academia.
Correct, right. So those were some of the things that we did in 2024. And then in 2025, we've got some goals, and these goals are all, again, data-driven. So I've said it before, and I'll say it again because I believe it. The collection development is an art and a science. And so we've got the anecdotal and the experiential from this side, and that helps us inform how we meet the community's needs, interacting with the public. Maybe at the info desk, we keep hearing requests about the same titles all the time, or do we own the title? Is it always checked out? Or if we get repeated questions on certain subjects, that's one input that we have for how we help us make our decisions for collection development. But then we also have a lot of quantitative data. And so this can be circulation numbers. So we look very closely at circulation numbers on a granular level with, by the collections and by branches, because that helps us determine what to buy, how many of these things to buy, which library gets it. Circulation statistics also help us set our budget allocations. So within the money that we get, there's some that we send to print, there's some that we send to digital, some that we send to AV. And so looking at these circ numbers helps us determine where to move money around. Because sometimes we get boosts from year to year, but other times we have to move the money around based on what we have. And so we use these numbers and historical reports to see trends. So for instance, you will see, I included some, you can see on this 2021 to 2024 circulation trends, you can see that adult AV, for instance, is going down. You'll see that digital is increasing. So these sorts of things help us make more confident, sure decisions on where to spend our money. That kind of ties into with one of our other goals that we have coming up to maximize the use of resources by revisiting floating collections. There's not very many floating collections left anymore. So once upon a time, we had a lot of floating collections, which meant that if you checked out an easy reader from Chanhassen and you returned it to Waconia, it would then be on the Waconia shelf. And so in 2022, we decided to try, specifically for easy readers, to unfloat, because that would give us more control kind of our individual collections. We wanted to see if we would be able to boost circulation by having a closer eye on our own branches and what's going out and what's not going out. And so in that case, we were able to boost circulation in easy readers. I think it was almost 24% between 2022 and 2024 by just stopping floating. And that amounted to 30,000 more easy readers getting checked out. So this year we want to look at a couple of the last remaining floating collections to see if that would be a viable thing to do for those collections too, just to see if we can help increase circulation. What else? Oh, yes. So another thing that I wanted to point out, also, this is kind of like a combination between the experiential and the concrete numbers I was talking about. We started this last year, we're going to continue to do it this year. We're going to apply the dogman principle, which is kind of a new thing, that we want to make sure that we are meeting the community's needs for these really popular titles. As Sarah can attest to, she did a lot of shelving during the summer at the library. We go through a ton of Dogman books. This is the super popular graphic novel series. You have kids coming in all the time. You don't want to send them away empty-handed. We want to make sure that they're coming to the library and that they're leaving with them. So we ended up buying, 20 additional copies of each of those books to move between to have at the different branches, so that we could ensure that there would be copies available. And that worked for the most part, but right now, if you were to look at our catalog, there are maybe 2 of those copies on the shelf and they're checked out everywhere else in the system. So we work really hard to look at those particular titles, for kids and for adults. So one of the other goals for this year is to look at our digital collection, because the digital collection is increasingly popular. And this includes both adult and kids, because right now we don't have like a way of breaking that down. So one of the handsome charts that I have here shows that right now the digital collection is like 28% of our total CCL circulation. And so we are looking at the potential of doing a cost per circ model. So right now, when we buy our digital titles, we buy just like we're buying print. So we pay for each copy, right? And so then when all those copies are checked out, people have to be on a hold list for them. So we try to mitigate that by having these hold ratios, even with print. So if we've got one copy and there's 5 holds on that copy, then we buy a second. But for digital, one option is having this cost per cert where we would decide, like for this new James Patterson book, that we're going to have $1,000 on this title. And so people could check that out like at the same time. So there would be lots of people, they would all be checking out that title at the same time. But once all of that money was spent, then we'd have to re-up that. So the pro for doing that is that it would be more instantaneous for people. There would be less of that long waiting list. So there'd be more copies checked out at any given time, but it costs more money. So we're looking at that as one of our goals to explore. Yeah, and then some just other basic ones were really simple. They can be like really complicated, like the budget allocations and looking at the stats. But then there's also the equally important things like choosing to relabel things in a more accessible way. For instance, graphic novels. We're just changing the label where the graphic novel and the spine, the call number are. We're switching them to the spine because they haven't been that way forever. Because back in the day when they started, they were like little comic book sizes, and now they're bigger, so there's more room to put. So that just helps helps people find what they're looking for. So it's good customer service, and it's good for the staff because it doesn't take so long to shelve. So I could talk about this all day, but those are just some of the main points between last year and then going forward for this year.
Is there time for questions?
Please.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thanks.
So it's clear that the demand for juvenile print is going up.
Yes.
For adult print it is going down.
Right.
On the digital, can you give us a ballpark on the breakdown of adult versus juvenile in the digital? I
can tell you ballpark for sure that it is definitely skewed heavier towards adult content.
Okay.
The juvenile doesn't really touch. I mean, it's a healthy growth for kids and teen stuff, but for the most part, it's adult. It's heavy adult for digital. But we've been adding more kids content because we've been working with a couple different local school districts on a virtual library card that allows them to be able to access and check out things through Libby using their school ID. So we've had additional funds that we've been putting into that so that we could buy more titles. We've been working with the schools and the media specialists too to see what kind of content would appeal to kids using those cards too. So.
Okay, so again, a ballpark. If you split out the adult digital versus juvenile digital, what then do you think, roughly speaking, are the shares of circulation? Well, shares of juvenile and adult in total, Mike?
That's a really good question. I don't know that off the top of my head. I could have, Serena is our librarian, that's the buyer, the selector for Overdrive. I could ask her and we could get you those figures.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so if you just look at, if you add up print, if you add up print with digital materials, you're looking at about 1,373,000 items, with youth being just under 50%, adult being about 20.5%, digital being about 30%. of that total. So I noticed that the budget shares for adult print
Yes.
are proportionally higher than the percentage of circulation.
Yes.
And the juvenile is lower than the percentage of circulation.
Yes.
So, yeah, exactly, it's, you bet, the cost is lower. How
Right.
much lower is the cost for, well, if you,
Yeah.
controlling
Sure.
for the material?
Sure.
How much have you observed is the cost difference?
It's a big difference. It can be as much as $10 if you have a children's chapter book and you have a grown-up chapter book. The discounts that we get through Brodart varies too. Our discounts have been getting smaller, so we don't pay the list price. So if you check out, or if you're at Barnes & Noble and you see it's like $35 for, the newest hardcover, we don't end up paying that full price, but
Okay.
the discount's getting less. I'd say that oftentimes it'll be in the $20, $25 range for adult, whereas with kids it could be $16. So that all adds up.
Are the discounts higher for kids' books typically more than adults as well?
No,
Yeah.
no, not necessarily, no.
So it's driven by, really by the cost difference between
Yeah.
digital and print in general.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that the juvenile digital is of lower cost.
No,
necessarily.
no, I believe in terms of digital, they're all pretty expensive.
Right.
But I don't know in terms of digital, like how great the difference is between, if it's as significant as with print.
Right.
Because even with like paperback, so we buy a lot of paperback and hardcover in juvenile fiction, and I know that in adult fiction there's hardcover and then there's the trade paperback too. The trade paperbacks before when they'd be $14, $15 at Barnes & Noble, now if you've looked on the back recently, they're like $18 for, the paperback. And so the kids' paperbacks are still staying, relative, they're approaching $20 like the adult ones are, but that all adds up a lot. That's why we end up having a lot more go out the door for adult print, even though the circ is a little bit different with, the juvenile circ being higher. You would think we would have more money going over there, but
Right.
yeah, it's because of the cost of adult books.
And then two very quick questions. Digital materials, are all of those fully owned acquisitions or are any of those subscriptions?
So for the digital, those are all, that includes just the not subscriptions, it's buying technically they're almost like subscriptions in a way because some of them are licensed, so we buy the copy,
Yeah.
but we don't own it in perpetuity like we would with
Yeah.
the print. And I think that varies by publisher, by licensing agreement.
Yeah, it's
so.
like when a university uses Science Direct.
Right,
They have a
Right.
rolling subscription. And then, what's AB?
Oh,
What
sorry.
do you define as AB?
audio visual. So that would be DVDs. We don't have any video cassettes anymore. That also would include CDs. I believe that would be music CDs, but I think it also includes audio books as well.
Okay, very good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So does it cost more to publish an adult book, or are they just ripping us off? Okay, sorry, that was a little,
I don't know.
that was a little jaded.
I mean,
Sorry.
the materials are going to probably not
Right,
anymore.
right.
I mean, I think that they probably have to put a little bit more into some of the kids' books to, like the library binding and stuff, to keep them nice and sturdy.
Well,
that
there's
probably
more-
costs more, like
Seems
physically,
like there's
but
more artists involved.
yeah.
I don't know.
No, yeah, it's probably
That
just all.
was a jaded response. Apologies to the crowd.
The authors may get more
I
money
know, but
than kids' books.
What?
The adult authors,
Yeah.
Oh,
May
they
get
get
paid
more
more than-
money.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
For ebooks?
yes, that,
Those would roll
Different
into
markets.
digital.
yes.
Yes,
But
so, yep,
Physical audiobooks.
Right, are
Would be
the
an
A
adult A
fee.
fee,
Yep,
correct?
yep.
That would be the differentiation.
so for the digital, in the digital umbrella, under the digital umbrella, it would be the ebooks that you can read on your tablet. It would also be e-magazines that you can read on your tablet, and then it would be like the e-audio too.
Yeah.
So when you download to listen to audiobooks,
That's my preferred methodology.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
And is that the one going through Libby in like
Yes.
the schools or? Okay.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Do we have and that Libby thing is cool. When do we get to hear like what the usage is of that? At some point, like
Libby?
how many kids are checking out?
From the school, like with the
Yeah.
school?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. The last time I looked, it was just after 112 came on board, so Eastern
Yeah.
Carver County, and I think they'd only had it for a month or two.
In
And there
one
were like
class.
40, in one class, it was the 6th grade.
So we're getting there.
And there were like
Yeah.
40 some checkouts. And it was kind of interesting because a lot of them were, there was a wide range of there were some nonfiction, but most of them were like, fantasy chapter books, some graphic novels. But yeah, there were about 40 some checkouts, and that was, within the first month or so that they did it, so,
Cool.
yeah.
Just too soon for a
Full picture.
full picture.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no,
we're-
it'd be fun to come back to.
We're working with the district to incrementally start to add more classes. I mean, the
Yeah.
end goal is to have 6 through 12.
Right.
Yeah.
Graders, all classes across the whole district. But it just takes time for both the district and on our end
Yeah,
to
there's a lot.
continue
The
to.
behind the scenes with having the technology interact with each other and all of the safety things in place with the tax side, all the permissions and, so it's slow going, but,
All right.
all right, any other questions?
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's great.
All right, on to the fun stuff that we get to deal with, the
I
policy.
thought that was fun.
Super fun, I even had colorful charts.
I was being sarcastic. Yours was actually fun.
Next time I'll bring
The policies-
Peaches trying to
build up enthusiasm.
What are you saying, the policies I bring are not fun?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, I'm sorry.
Next time you gotta bring donut.
We have to look at policies, we need donuts. I like that. Now that's a policy I
Seems
can-
fair. All right, so we'll start off with Friends of the Library. Jody, why don't you lay it out for us?
Sure, absolutely. So, just so everyone's on the same page, we try to review each of our individual policies every 3 years on a rotating basis. And depending on the policy, I try to bring it to the appropriate teams or other staff members that might need to take a look at it. For this particular policy, I had the branch managers review this since they work directly with the Friends of the Library organizations. So I think most of this is pretty straightforward. We felt very solid that it speaks very well to what needs to be within the policy. We did, at the very bottom, just note there's one additional bullet point that we would recommend adding to point to their volunteering for book sales, which is a huge part of what they do, and we realized there wasn't really anything speaking to that within the policy. And then also noting that when we have Friends volunteers overseeing those book sales, they are under the Friends umbrella. They don't need to fall under the county's requirements to be volunteers, because those are really two different separate pieces. So we wanted to make sure that that was noted here as well. We could point to that. So
How is that different from county?
So the county, so say if you are, whether you're a teen or an adult volunteer that may come in and wish to volunteer as say doing shelving or helping out with some of our programs or story times, other pieces like that, the employee relations for the county has several training requirements that they need to go through, videos and signing off on policies, and we have some internal training as well. I'm looking at Sarah because she's probably gone through some of this. And so just making sure that we check all those training requirement boxes. And whereas for this, again, it's just under the umbrella of the Friends organization, and they can run their own volunteer program for book sales and other events as they see fit.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so like a county volunteer, y'all would do a background check also?
Yes, I forgot that piece. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's always
Yep.
important.
Yep.
Every
Yep.
time.
It is, every time.
So what is meant by underwriting presenter fees? Are we talking about the Friends making donations to support the fees? What is meant by the word underwriting here?
I believe that is meant to, so when we have say an author talk, and maybe it doesn't fall under our legacy funding or other types of, say, MELSA funding, we may go to our individual Friends group, or it could be a children's program, a youth program, and so we would go to our Friends group and ask for their support to fund that particular presenter. I guess in that case it's.
All right. And are those contributions counted in the foundation pot? Or is that a separate?
That's a separate.
Separate thing,
Foundation.
separate
Right.
thing, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, each of our Friends groups at each of our branches has their own separate fiscal account or
Got it.
fund
Yeah.
that they oversee. And those are really meant, we could, lots of details, but those are, the Friends groups really do try to support their individual local branch versus the foundation tries to support at a system-wide level.
Yeah.
If that gives you a little more
Yes, it
background
does,
as well.
thank you.
Well, so in most cases, we are reaffirming the policy. Everything here is the same as it has been, except for the language at the bottom in red, which is really more just a clarification that anyone who participates in those activities would be considered under the group and umbrella of the Friends of the Library specifically. So I will look for a motion to approve. You can have further discussion if we need to.
Motion to approve?
Okay, so moved. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion or clarification that we need there? Okay, all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, those opposed. All right, unanimously passes. On to the next one, which is Library Foundation Liaison. We will take recommendations.
I already sort of volunteered myself.
All right,
Yeah.
Volunteering is even better.
Yeah,
Yes.
I volunteered myself for that. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Have we motioned and officially approved that?
Not yet.
No,
Nope, that's
okay.
what we need to do tonight, I believe. Yep.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Do I see a motion on the floor to elect Miss Stacy? Charles?
I volunteer Stacy.
Do I have
Nominate.
a second?
Since she
I
volunteered,
volunteer.
Second, all right, from Wendy. All right, all in favor of Stacy taking care of that, please say aye.
Aye.
If I
Those
could vote, I'd
opposed?
vote for you too.
You're
All right,
You're on.
beautiful. We do have a nice legislative day recap in your reading materials as well. But I think, was Ern going to give us a potentially verbal recap as well, or Jody, or you guys tag team or whatever?
I would welcome Ern, but I can kick us off with
Why
a
don't you
little
kick
bit of
us off?
a
Yeah.
summary. So we do typically try to bring, or some of us try to represent the county at Library Legislative Day, which is a day that's in a broader sense organized by Minnesota Library Association. So in that regard, it's really great to get to the Capitol and be able to interact with a lot of folks that we don't normally see on a regular basis from the library world. So that's terrific. We were able to, myself and Ern and our library cataloger, Lisa Gearman, went with us as well. She actually, prior even to her joining us at CCL, she had done a lot of legislative work as a school media specialist. So she just brings a lot of great experience and passion for it to the table. So she again expressed interest in going. And then Commissioner Uterman joined us as well. And next year I hope you'll be able
Yes.
to join us.
I hope so.
And I think that would be fantastic. So we had several visits that we made. And really, we did bring forward the MLA bills and priorities. One of the pieces that I see as important from these visits is just keeping the potential of a new Chaska building on the horizon with our legislators. And having some discussions about what does that look like, when do we need to go for bonding, and what that looks like, what kind of support we would need. And potentially, if we stay on track with the current plans of 2028 construction, 2029 opening, I mean, by next year, we'd really need to be going to the legislature for a potential bonding bill, so.
So what does that look like, Joni? Like when you say a bonding bill, is that something like our local legislatures carry and have done in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
So is that something we need to be talking with Lucy about now, Lucy on that side and Senator Coleman on the senator side?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what we started talking about. I think
Okay.
we're not probably quite there yet, but that's why I just starting to think ahead to next year.
Right.
And I would welcome others who would have had more experience in this area too, to say, like, when do we really, you know?
I mean, I can reach out to, I know Senator Coleman better than I know Representative Ring, you know, and ask and kind of get some feel for when that makes sense to do that.
Right.
I know when I was on the school board, we had to do this
Sure.
frequently
Sure.
as well. So, you know, can kind of get a feel for
Just
that.
a good sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So 2029.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it was sooner. Yeah, exactly. So, but I'd welcome you, Ern, to share your thoughts or insights or perspective with the group.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I really appreciate the opportunity for members of the board to participate. It's wonderful to sort of observe as a citizen what goes on during this particular day on the calendar. It was very educational for me. Jody and Lisa are just a great tag team, and to have Commissioner Utterman there, who I was just so impressed with his knowledge of the facts. I mean, he's got a crystal clear, almost photographic memory from what I could ascertain.
Yes.
So the three of them are just a great tag team, and you know, there's so much controversy nowadays at the federal, state, and local levels over policy issues. I mean, my goodness. But the great thing is, in meetings with all four of these legislators, is that there is nothing controversial about libraries, about this particular public service, and there was no indication of any partisanship in our meetings with the four. They all very strongly endorse funding and supporting libraries. Of course, their interest levels were the highest with the big money stuff. I mean, a lot of this just boils down to plain old cold hard cash. And they were most interested in that, but they listened well, they asked good questions, and it was clear to me that they're very, very supportive. Also, the community of librarians that congregate on this particular day, they're just fantastic people. I mean, what a nice group of people, all devoted to a very noble type of public service. So it remains to be seen, of course, how these proposals will be transformed into policy and how much money will be allocated. But I walked away actually feeling quite optimistic about these legislators and what I think they will do for us in this county. So it was a great day, and we were busy. I mean, I didn't count my steps, but we were just shuffling back and forth between buildings, many times within buildings. It's a rat maze over there.
It is.
If you don't know, you have to get a road map to figure out where to go. But you guys know it very, very well. But thank you again for inviting me, and overall, I think a very successful day.
Yes.
Yeah. And sorry I couldn't make it. been a little overwhelming these first couple months on the job.
We understand.
So I'm
Yes.
still trying to figure out.
Is she the daughter of Norm Coleman? No,
Yeah, daughter-in-law.
Yep.
Daughter-in-law?
Yeah, and Jay Coleman, who's on the Laconia,
City
is Norm's
He's
son.
like really tall.
He's very tall,
I-
and all their children are big
I-
boys.
We
there's
we
young
did a
boys.
Washington trip, and I wrote him to say
Yeah.
he would come in
Yeah.
from Minnesota, so he took us around
Yeah,
the Congress, and I just feel so puny because
yeah. I feel that way normally. So there you go. There you go. So who did you meet with? Representative Nash, Representative Raymond?
Coleman, Gruenhagen.
Gruenhagen,
Was our
yep,
first
right.
visit.
Mhm.
And then we did Ream, yep,
Yeah.
and then,
you didn't do Nash though. You didn't
And-
do-
and then Coleman, and then we concluded with Harder.
Oh,
With
Harder, Bobby Harder.
Right.
Got it. Okay, well, good to know.
Yeah.
I'm not as optimistic we'll get any money anywhere. In fact, more than likely, the county will foot the bill for much of the many things that the state has traditionally been paying for.
Okay.
So, but I'm glad you were optimistic on the day. I'm not feeling optimistic.
Definitely optimistic about, I think, authentic expressions of support.
Yeah, for
and
sure,
all
I
of-
think they all are,
Yeah,
yes.
and all of them brought up the structural deficit in the
Yeah.
state budget, which frankly, with the way things are going with the national economy, may widen because the economic signals that we're getting at the macro level all the way down to the state level are not positive right now. So
No.
I would not be surprised if we're more strapped than we think we're going to be.
So you think they'll cut rather than they'll add to what we are asking for?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a $6 billion worth of B deficit, so, I mean, so the county has a little legislative session, a breakfast that we do, and we invite all of them, and I was invited as commissioner-elect in December. And because I was on the school board, I know most of these people anyway. And Representative Nash was very clear about this is not going to be, they're not going to add to that deficit. If anything, you all taxpayers will foot the bill for money that they'll shift to us without any responsibility or ability or any authority to make any of those programs better. Not that I'm bitter about it or anything. I hope that doesn't come up, that I feel bitter
So
about
the
that.
bonding will come from the state, it will come from the county?
No, the county, it always comes from the state.
Okay.
We just implement. That they fund, we implement. Yeah. So, but I do think that, I think they legitimately care about our library systems, and I think that they know the importance of it. It's just a matter of, it's hard to get blood out of a turnip. But I think getting on top of some of these things sooner rather than later with the Chaska branch, because that's a very big worry to me. And I've
That's
been
been
in
touched
touch.
on forever since I first started.
Many years.
Many years,
Yes.
yes, been in the making, so. And I just came from meeting with Mayor Hubbard as well on that, so we're staying in touch.
Great. Wonderful.
I was just curious that when I was looking through the priorities here that you noted, and you say, we want this, increase this, increase. What is the current amount that we are getting right now from the state?
That's a good question.
What's the relative difference, like, 1.5 million relative to what? I'm just curious about that.
So, I'd have to get back to you on that in
Right.
terms of, because what happens too is a majority, so much of it gets funneled down through MELSA to us
Right,
as
right.
well and dispersed
There's a
between.
few funnels that comes down,
Right.
but it's one big bucket that goes up to multiple.
To the regional library
Right.
systems, exactly.
Right.
And then like Minitex is a little bit different too. Minitex is not a regional system. But Minitex is who we get interlibrary loan and statewide delivery from. And many databases as well. So in a sense, I don't know if that would be even
It's
more.
an apportionment of a bigger budget.
Ex-
and that's how I see
Exactly,
it.
exactly.
Minitex also serves school libraries.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Yeah, I was just looking at it, trying to figure out, if you want 2 million here, 3 million here, like what's the relative size of, you're asking how is that coming through and how will you see it, even if they gave you the money?
And are you asking for like the entire library budget?
Like, yeah, when we have points like, you want 3 more million or you want 2 more million,
Yeah.
then you want to look at the relative size of what you're asking
Yeah,
for.
I see.
And how would you see that come across?
Yeah.
So like, for instance, I'll tag on legacy funding for a moment. So
Right.
obviously this is additional 3 million statewide to go to the 12 regional systems across the state.
Right,
So that's dispersed to those 12 regional systems, MELSA
Yeah.
being the largest regional system. Then within MELSA, we have a particular, what we call formula.
right, it comes up.
And then it-
So this is just 3 million.
State.
It's not an increase because the other one says an increase. Like if you look at e-library Minnesota resources, it says 2 million per year increase
Right.
rather than and I'm just not trying to understand it. I'm not trying to be picky.
No,
about it.
I didn't think you were, Charles.
So you
Yeah.
ask good questions.
Yep.
Like if I would look at it, go like, yeah, 3 million, but per year appropriation, is there none right now? Or are we just asking for new appropriation in this question? And then when you say 2 million increase, what's the current amount that we're increasing from? Is it like 50 million plus 2 million, or is it 10 million plus 2 million? That is a significant.
That amount makes me think that it's just to maintain current services.
Right.
Because
The
of inflation.
Appropriation looks like
Inflation,
it's
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
hey,
Okay.
and we need this. And maybe a little less before, but maybe we just need that amount, we are assessing that, but then the 2 million increase in the 1.5.
Yeah, with the cost of services going way up,
Right,
if there is an increase, we're gonna have to cut things.
right, I understand.
And I think that's just to maintain where we are right now.
And just because I know, well, Kevin and I both work closely with the programming teams for legacy, with the use of legacy funding, as an example, what would you say roughly, is it 26, 27,000 a year that we
Mhm.
receive in legacy funding, just for Carver County to use for programming?
I'm just curious, the 10 million appropriation for library construction. I'm reading that go like Chaska Library.
Oh, I think that's only, oh yeah, 10 million. And then asking for a cap to be raised too.
I think we have more notes about that from MLA, I do, so I'll see what I
I
can
got caught
dig
up
up.
and
Yep.
I forgot about going to that. I wanted to go actually.
There's always another year to go.
Yeah, I know. The only time that I did it was all online. It's COVID time.
Oh my.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
One question I have about the school library aid, there's no dollars in that. Is this really to legislate a shift in priorities and not allocate?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know for sure about the allocation, but it's tied to a state statute.
Okay.
There was money that was allocated 2 years ago, but schools did not spend it all on libraries. They found loopholes to spend it in other ways, and you'll notice that there were a lot of school library media specialists who have been cut in the last 2 years, even though there were additional funds that were meant to support that. And so I think this is more asking them to specify how that money is to be spent.
Okay.
More governance than more money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great questions.
All right, on to the Library Advisory Board photo.
What?
We're all here.
Yes.
Wait, what? Tucker?
I'm not dressed. I'm dressed bad.
Is the plan to do that today or just to
Or
give
we-
us forewarning?
We can delay it until next month, that's
Okay,
fine. If
all right.
everyone
We should all come in shirt
You've been informed now.
That's
Oh,
okay.
I'm going to the gym after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Commissioner Anderson won't be here
I know,
next month, so.
because I have another, I have 2 board meetings at the same time, so I have this and mental health advisory that I go to every other month. I think you look fine. Let's,
Just put them in the back.
yeah, you're fine.
Check my.
I agree. I actually have to
It
leave
doesn't,
as well.
yeah, there's no
I've never done
improvement
that.
or
I-
whatever. You get what you
I
get, so with this.
And you don't have a fit.
Yes.
know, right?
Sorry.
I'm fine. I'm
I
fine.
think we're doing this.
Oh, I like Stacy's.
Maybe over
attitude.
here?
Do it.
Sure.
Cool.
Do it on the library.
I think
yellow.
Jody's gonna take
Why
it.
does Jody, why does every library have the same yellow? Not, and I mean, not just here. I just.
Chaska's is green
Should we stand
instead.
in
Yeah,
front of?
I'm going to county library.
We're just,
I don't know.
Wait, do I even get to be on this? I'm just a
it
liaison.
doesn't matter. I just
I guess it's
figured,
up to you.
I guess that could work too.
Well, then I'll do it.
So it's all one
And I wore
color,
my
but
big girl shoes.
I'm sure she's gonna, you know,
Are you
trim
coming
it up.
with me? Are you coming with me?
Yeah,
Just be
should-
like this, right?
No.
Should we stand in front
Oh,
of like a book
I
display
think
or
we should
something?
look like we're like in a lineup or something. Is there lines on the wall? No, somebody's gotta get.
We might have to move.
Yeah.
I know, let's have a few people sitting in.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Oh,
3, come on, Stacy.
Oh, no, I sat in front of the last one.
Oh, am I putting these for no one? Okay, you 3 girls.
Aren't you gonna sit?
No,
I don't wanna sit.
because I'm a liaison, I have to look liaise.
Then tell Charles.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to go this way.
Tell Charles to do it.
what?
There you go.
Trying to get her to
All
have
right,
you
Now
sit
you
down.
stand
Get
behind.
a little lower.
Oh, okay.
Hand in front, hand on side, or hand on the back?
What's that?
I'm just trying to ask the
Okay. On the count of 3, say books. 1, 2, 3.
Books.
I don't know if that's a good smiling one. or
Comics.
not. All right, 1, 2, 3.
guys. Comics.
Okay, I think we're good. All right.
See, that was painless.
Sorry, I
Were you
shrunk
saying that
someone's
was
chair.
painless?
I think you're good.
I like I had to shrink it.
All good. All right. Bossy when it comes to pictures.
There you go.
I'll just wait for the website.
All right, that wasn't very painful.
No.
It's gonna be on the website.
It is.
Better than the post office.
Forever.
Forever.
Forever. Thank you, everyone.
I think that's a
Apologies
great
for having
looking
to-
jacket, Charles.
That counts.
Thank you,
See ya.
Stacy.
All right, budget update?
Sure.
Jody?
Well, I know, I think the last few months I talked about we're prepping the rollovers. We finally put the rollovers into finance for review this week, but our rollovers are very small this year, like roughly $8,000 total for the Chaska desk project that we had delayed shipping on, so we had to bump that funding, or we're asking for that funding to be bumped into 2025 as we finish that project. And then just some of our pass-through accounts with our friends groups were not completely spent out, so we just put in a request to roll that additional, very small amount of funding over. The other 2 rollover pieces that we also have to prepare, one is to roll over the law budget, which is, your group doesn't have really any impact on that piece, because we have a separate law library board that oversees that piece. And then we also go through the process of rolling over the Charles Dalkey grant funds. So to make sure that that all gets prepared for the new year and any new projects that are coming down the pike for that as well. So I can finally say that was all submitted, all of the finance and accounting pieces behind that. So that was great work from our team. As for the budget that's enclosed, I certainly can try to address any questions if anyone has any.
It just dawned on me when I was looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
that your data processing service is 99%.
Yes. So some of those are prepaids.
Right.
And finance, it's hitting our budget much earlier
Okay.
than, and going through that whole process.
So it's in the budget, it's just that this is one of those prepaid items that is paid up.
When it hits. Yeah,
Exactly,
Yeah, more of a
exactly.
cash flow issue than
Yep.
anything.
Yep. if that makes sense to the group. So that is one piece I was gonna mention, that if you see some outrageous numbers in that area, that's because of the prepaids, and it just ends up looking that way, so, yep.
Looks like we're actually behind spending budget-wise a little bit overall for total budget, if we were to divide it out, an average of every month. But there could be obviously timely purchases that come through with that.
Exactly,
We're
yep.
early in the year.
Yeah, and it's so early, yep,
Yeah.
yet, yeah. Even with our collection spending, you know, we really, because of the rollover process with our collection budget and determining budgets for the year, we don't necessarily start ordering right away, January 1. It takes some time before we start to reorder, or start to order again, I should say, so.
Is this a
Yep.
use it or lose it budget? Or you mentioned rollovers, so some things do roll over.
But very, very minimal. It's really projects that, you know,
Yeah.
may already be in the contract process. So anything that is essentially not used goes into the year-end savings, the YES account,
Yeah.
is my understanding. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Any surprises or things thus far that you think are noteworthy to let us know about?
No, I don't, not so far, I don't think. I mean, obviously that's a question we always keep a close pulse on.
Yes.
Kevin
Let's
watched.
not be surprised.
Kevin watches our STOC, our stock, our substitute budget carefully, to try to help us stay on track with that. That's actually a really important piece of the salaries budget that we have available, so that when we have staff out on PTO or we need coverage, then we have that to go to, so. But I think so far so good. I'm looking at Kevin.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I just find interesting that although your budget for, it's not a big number, it's like your county library fees, you seem to be collecting quite a bit relative to budget on month 2.
Right, so if you recall, we went fine-free as
Right.
of January 1, but we did not wipe away pre-existing fines on
Okay.
accounts. So some of those are still,
So I still owe those fines. Thanks, Jody. Turn it all anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot, but it's just, oh, that's like 30% of budget, that's interesting, or 40% of budget, I'm like, wow.
and I think especially if someone, it depends, but we're still collecting
Right.
from previous.
We are still collecting if there are destruction that you got to replace, those are still fees that you still charge.
Right, and there's that too, thank you, yes, for lost and damaged, yep, unless you, I was gonna say, if it's a lost book and you find it down the road, you can return it and that will take the fee off your account, yep.
And there won't be a late fee now
Yeah.
for it.
We were expecting to lose like $36,000, I think,
Right.
as a line item,
Right,
so.
right, and again, it's a little early to tell where we're gonna land with that exactly, but I would still keep probably at that projection, which we were looking to offset that with, obviously some levy budget money, but then also jointly with our MELSA funds that come in as well,
Yeah.
so.
Was there a reason to eliminate the fine, that you guys decided it would make more sense to do that than to keep it?
We were one of 2 libraries in the state that still had that still had
Really?
fines. It was
Yeah.
us and Anoka.
In MELSA, sorry.
In MELSA.
Yep.
Just
Yeah, sorry.
late fines, just late fines.
Late
Other
fines.
charges are still like,
Yeah.
if you tow a boat,
Yeah.
you still pay for that.
Yeah.
Because we have auto renew,
Oh.
which will auto renew books that aren't placed on holds or that aren't high demand up to 6 times. And I think there's just a propensity that we want people to be able to finish and engage
Yeah.
in what they're doing if it's not a hardship maybe to other people.
Well, and it would probably get to be a pain to try to collect all the time and have someone focusing on that when they could be doing something else, you know?
Definitely
So-
takes staff time, absolutely. For some folks in our communities, it's a barrier
Yeah.
to have
Yeah.
access to materials, definitely. being only 2 counties, which now all MELSA is fine free, but that customer service element, also just engaging with our staff, someone coming from, say, Hennepin or Scott County and saying, well, I don't pay fines in our county, why do I have to pay for you? And so it just becomes a very contentious, like, customer service interaction, so.
Don't go to Carver County.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and from an upstream standpoint, we really do want to encourage people to come and not feel like, they,
Much less punitive in nature.
Yeah.
right.
It's, I mean, we want, again, we want to engage with people and get them to read books. That's the whole purpose of the library.
Right.
I always
And I
tell
think
the story of because I was a media specialist at a school, at an elementary school, and one of my kids was wanting a book, and we didn't have it on our shelf. But I said, public library has it. Do you know where that is? He goes, yeah, I live like a block away. Like, well, if you have a library card, you can go. He says, I can't use my library card because my mom had fees on her account, so she checked out books under mine, and now I have fees, so I can't. And so, I mean, it is a barrier.
It is a barrier, and at the end of the day, although I may change my tune after this whole state budget crisis, it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, really, that revenue is such a minor amount in the overall scheme of things. So, but again, who knows? I might be like, hey, what do you think about those fines?
Well, and these fines are so regressive for lower income households, people that are just trying to make ends meet, and that's a core subset of the population that we really want to serve.
Yes,
so
indeed.
It makes complete sense just from a economic justice point of view. And
Yeah.
it is a drop in the bucket.
It is a drop.
And it's hard to budget too. I mean, how do you budget?
Yeah.
Really?
It's theoretical money, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sarah, you looked like you were gonna chime in.
I did have a question. I know that at the library, there are like the green dot books that are books that were donated and they didn't have the late fines. Do those still have the damage and lost fines still on those books, or is it just no fines for them then? If they have
I wish Patrick was here to speak to that.
I don't think there's anything associated, no, because it's coming back to me, the green dot books, if I recall correctly, like if you were to go on a trip somewhere and you take your green dot book with and you leave it on the plane, that's fine. It's just, that was always kind of the concept behind like those books. I don't know, not for the travel piece, but kind of. A lot of people said you can leave it for someone else to read wherever you go, so. And those are often gently used donated books that we receive that I believe so. But again, Patrick is our collection liaison, so he would be able to speak more specifically, but I think you're totally fine, lost and damaged free on those.
All right, well, we do have Commissioner Anderson here.
Oh, yes, I am.
Yeah, and do have Kevin as well, so any reports?
Well, I mean, I think I shared my reports. Unfortunately, we are concerned about how this budget is going to unfold this year. And I think it's, I was going to say it's too soon to panic, but I think that ship has sailed. We're at a hope for the best and prepare for the worst kind of scenario here. The good news is the county budget does not have to be done and finalized until the end of the year. So, we'll likely go into a special session, but we can make informed decisions by then. And I say that only because I came from the school board. I was on the Eastern Carver County School Board, and our budget was due June 30th, and usually things it was impossible. It was like, okay, who knows how this is going to go. So that helps. As far as kind of any other reports, I'm pleased to inform you that if you do tune in, who all tunes into the Carver County Board meetings? That's exactly what I thought would happen. But if you do tune in, we are now recording our work sessions. So by law, you have to record the board meetings, but not the work sessions. But we did vote on our very first meeting to record the work sessions. So those are now recorded, and I just think it provides a lot more transparency because a lot of work happens in the works meeting and sessions that inform those actual board meetings. So without seeing that piece, sometimes it just provides more transparency. So that's exciting. And then we are looking at doing a strategic planning process, the Carver County Board, and we've hired a consultant who has some experience in county government that will help get the 5 of us kind of working together and identify some strategic priorities so that we can better guide and direct staff. So those are kind of the big things from my standpoint that's happening, and hopefully that it's not a huge strategic planning process. It's like baby steps, but we'll get there. So usually we kick off our budgeting process in late May. So we're working on that. So that will kind of inform some of that piece. So that's it. If you're really interested, I can talk about the litany of road projects coming up, but I'll spare you. That's for my next week. Any questions on what's happening with the county?
Mine
That I
would have
can't
been a
answer.
question about highway, but no.
Oh.
I'll save it.
Yeah, 4-lane,
Yeah.
all the way.
Not to Waconia though. They're only going to Victoria.
They are.
I could have used it tonight.
I know, right? Actually, I did actually talk to Taryn Milkey about that, and they are looking at start to put in a proposal for 4-lane all the way to Waconia, not until 2029.
Okay. Well, that's
2029 or 2030, who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, look how long it took us for 212.
Yeah.
But that is something that they're looking at doing at some point.
I thought the Victoria lady last year told us it would go 4-lane all the way to Waconia.
Eventually, the Victoria lady meaning Deb?
Whoever, I think
The city.
city planner, city manager.
Oh, Dana?
Yeah,
At our most recent, or
last year.
year?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been.
Things could change in a
Yeah.
year, but
At this point, it is just to Victoria, but yeah, that is the plan, is to start that project. Then. So that's all I got for you right now.
Thank you.
And again, I do apologize for, so what happens is, when you're a new board member, you don't have a foggiest clue what's going on when you accept these assignments. And so I'm like, sure, I do library board, sure, I do this. And then I'm like, well, those darn it meet on the same actual time, the actual second Tuesdays at the same time. So apologies for that. I don't see that changing. So I'll be here every other month. That's kind of
What's
all.
the other board?
The Mental Health Advisory, which is actually in Waconia tonight as well. So I could have been there for 15 minutes. I decided not to and just come here. So yes, again, I apologize for that. But I am alternate on MILSA, which I have yet to go to. We'll get it there.
Absolutely.
All right.
all right. We are nearing 6 o'clock, but
I'll go super fast.
yeah, hit us.
So the top picture kind of highlights some of the partnerships that we have. This is a tween book club, and it was a partnership with Parks and Recreation in Chaska because they're meeting at the Lodge, which is kind of the retired person's kind of
Senior Center.
senior
yeah.
center hub.
Hang out.
55
And the materials were provided by the Friends of the Library. So it's several partnerships all together there. Our seed library went live on yesterday. So if you're looking to borrow some seeds, make your way to the library.
Any of the branches.
Any of the branches, yeah. Jeff, who's our adult services librarian at Chaska, is the one who kind of coordinates that. And we have, I want to really give props to our newish youth services librarian, because our story times have been having increased attendance, where we started off with like 5 kids and about equal number of adults, but we're up to mid-20s to 30s now. And with every session, we're getting a little bit more traction with that. And I think part of it is because Laura she's fluent in Spanish, so she's able to kind of be more inclusive.
This is in the Chaska library,
Yes.
so where do y'all have it now?
Hmm?
Is it very crowded then?
It's depending on the day, it is crowded. Thankfully, some of those shelves, the bins that in that area are on wheels, so we can scoot them out of the way if we need to. But those are the only ones I'm going to highlight because it is late.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, I will call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Stand adjourned at 5:55.